Hi, I'm Rob, and this is Mena. Mena's going to be my camera girl, and we're going to put together a video showing you how to put a printed design on a wheelchair spoke cover. The equipment you're going to need is the printed design, the spoke cover, some cable ties, a sharp pair of scissors or a Stanley blade, a ruler, a pencil, and a sponge, or something which will absorb water. The first step, you're going to need a ruler, and you're also going to need a pencil. And with this, you're going to draw a straight line from somewhere in the middle of the donut out from there, and a straight line out actually off the design. But what I would suggest is to look for something on the design which is innocuous enough, or something which is all a dark colour or one colour. So for example, you wouldn't do it across this area here. And as long as it's roughly the middle, and I'd use a pencil rather than a pen, I just draw the line across like you can see I've done there. For the second step, as you can see I've already cut the second design off. It just makes it a bit easier to work with the one by itself. That line you've drawn with the pencil and the ruler, take your sharp pair of scissors or Stanley blade and just cut as straight as you possibly can across the design. Okay, the third step, you'll need to get your sponge or your scour or whatever you decide to use, as long as it's something which can absorb water, and then you need to wet the actual spoke cover itself. The wetter the better really, so spread it over. If you've already got a design on your covers, it doesn't matter if you put water on them because it'll still stick pretty well anyway. I would suggest that you actually start peeling from where you've made the incision, the cut, and then just gently pull it around. Make sure you don't pull it too hard because the last thing you want is actually to start to rip. When you've got the printed design off the vinyl, still keep it folded, but obviously keep it folded so the adhesive isn't actually touching each other, so it's on the outside like I'm showing you there. And as I said, this will actually make it easier to apply to the wet spoke cover. So what I'm going to do first, I'm actually going to put down the inner side of the design. I'm going to start with the bit which I've cut. And the beautiful thing is, when it's actually wet, it is quite easy to pull off if you do start to make mistakes, which I probably inevitably will. Also, the really good thing about it being cut means you can actually start to push it down and push out any bubbles as you're going along. And as you can see here, I've actually not done a very good job of putting that bit down. And because it's wet, the spoke cover, you can just re-peel it off and then slowly start to put it down again, stretch it out a bit to avoid getting the bubbles on. When you do come to the end of putting the design on, you'll find that it probably will overlap a little bit just because of the dome shape of the actual cover, and that's why we did it in an inconspicuous area of the cut, so we can kind of fold over or overlap it a little bit so it's not that noticeable. Good thing about doing this outside or in a well-lit room, you can actually see where the bubbles have appeared then, as I've been trying to put it down. So you can either use your fingers or your hands or something which is a dull instrument to try to push the bubbles out, but try to avoid using something metallic which will mark it because obviously it will damage the design. And the easiest way to do it is just to push it out towards the closest end of the design. So if you're at the edge, push it outside, and if you're on the middle part, then push it towards the middle part. And just get as many of them out as you possibly can. Once you've actually got all the bubbles out, which I'm still working on with this one, the cable ties I said you might need is just to attach the spoke cover back onto the wheel, onto the spokes. You might already have cable ties, but I'd suggest that if you do need to get some, try to get something which matches the colour so it doesn't stand out quite as much. And that's the last step.